Well, welcome to the second segment on an analysis behind the news. First of all, I don't know how many of you noticed it or not, but the mass murder in Norway that blew up and a lot of people and started killing students and camp counselors at that summer camp in Norway. You see what he's doing here? He's giving the communist salute in the court. And it calls it a salute here. Some papers call it a gesture, but that is the communist salute as we've expressed before. Kind of gives you a little insight and background into this very deranged individual. Argentina to seize oil group. In other words, Argentina, under the Kirchner, has decided it's going to nationalize the oil industry in Argentina. Here she says, in this one's in the Financial Times. This is from Investors Daily. She says, we're the only country in Latin America that doesn't manage its own natural resources. So in other words, as we've expressed before, the communists are taking over more and more of Latin America, and she is just in a polite way affirming that. The interesting thing about it is that in Argentina, when they seize industry, they call it a seizure. But when they do it in the United States, they call it a bailout. and you may remember General Motors. Well, a lot of people don't recall that Russia got, or at least a Russian-controlled consortium got part of GM, the Opel aspect and another brand of General Motors. But the United States government got 60%. The Canadian government got 11.7%. United Automobile Workers Union got 17.5% in this so-called bailout. And so a lot of stockholders got really messed over in that thing. And like I said, instead of calling it a seizure in the United States like they do when they do it in Argentina, they call it a bailout. The Ford factory is building its the Ford industry is building its fifth factory in China. You know, when you build automobile factories, what else can you use them for? Recall that all of our automobile factories in the United States immediately went into war production, producing trucks and tanks, etc., for the war effort during World War II. So Ford is building factories for the Chinese that can be used as well. Ford also has a history of building factories in Russia that were used during World War II and after during the Cold War against the United States. Don't forget also that at the instigation of Henry Kissinger, American businessmen went over and built what was called the Kama, K-A-M-A, Kama River Truck Factory. And this was due, again, during the Vietnam War. We actually built them a truck factory, which they used the trucks from to invade Afghanistan, just shortly after it was complete. We also built them a highway in the area so that the trucks could roll into Afghanistan and across Afghanistan much better. This is the kind of thing that goes on all the time, is this cooperation between our enemy and our own government and our own businessmen, as we pointed out in the first segment of this week. Moving on, in the USA this week, it said TSA, that's the boys that you see out at the airport, tests machines to check ID and tickets. This is a ratcheting up of the process of control over the American people. These are machines that will check your ID and your tickets before you get on the plane. Now when you go in there, you talk to a TSA agent, he looks these things over and then he passes you through into the security area, and then you go through all these machines and so on and so forth. Well, they say this is being done in order to facilitate the speed, to speed it up. Speed up the process. But then it goes on in the article and says there's going to have to be a man to man the machine and verify the machine's results. So how is that going to speed things up? Well, at first, this is just a step towards ultimately where that machine, that computer, is locked into a master server somewhere that will identify individuals as they come through. Right now, how it's done is they've got this master list of people that they will not allow to fly, and they clear that list through the airline computers, but it's still a human factor between when that ticket is issued to when that ticket is scanned mentally by that TSA agent. So there's a human error factor that's built in that a terrorist could possibly get through. Well, in the name of that, they're building these machines. Now, they say they're not keeping data in there, they won't keep a record, et cetera, where we heard that one before. But what will happen is that this is an interim step towards a master computerized system to where they will be able to track everybody in the United States as their comings and goings and call them out and cull them out from being able to fly for those who are unreasonable and enemies of the state. Lastly, on the ObamaCare situation, wouldn't you know it, we keep finding out that it's going to cost more and more and more. Now it's going to be $4 trillion over the next couple of decades. But in addition to that, they say they haven't factored in the idea of inflation, inflationary dollars. So it's going to be a tremendous financial burden. But along with that, in the Chicago Tribune this last week, we discovered that due to the problems in the Illinois government, I mean, you know, financially, they're all hurting, they're all in debt, they can't afford to do the things that they're doing, and they keep adding public services, except when people start to complain about taxes and everything, they start talking about cutting back on schools, the poor children, cutting back on the police because, well, after all, you know, those are the two obvious things. We don't want kids learning better. We don't want our neighborhoods safe. So we'll cut back on schools and we'll cut back on police. And then everybody gets scared. Oh, no, don't cut my taxes. Well, now they're doing it with health care. They're saying we're going to have to start dropping children and people, other people from the medical programs of the state because of the fact that we can't afford it anymore. Well, it's just another step towards A, getting you to think, well, boy, I've got to pay more taxes, and B, getting you locked into the whole system to be run by the federal government, not just the states, in ObamaCare. This is a steady ratcheting up of that process. Crisis, scare you, more taxes, more controls, on and on and on and on. And until we say to them, wait, hold it, no more taxes, we got to get rid of government programs and lower taxes, and I don't want any more controls, thank you very much. Until we do that, we will continue down this road. Until next week, we'll see you then.